Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So here is a rather interesting article or review about Ghost of Tsushima by none other than Paul Tassi. So you know that Paul Tassi is this hit or miss guy. Sometimes you get really good content from him and sometimes you get some weird opinions and weird writings. Actually, when the guy writes just about like a review that is here, it gets really good and shows that he's really capable of writing something rather well put, very articulate, and presents the idea very clearly. And when he speaks about his political opinion, he starts to use ist and ism and phobe and whatnot, and then it turns out to be a mess of strange takes, to say the least. So the review is entitled Ghost of Tsushima: The Surprise of the Generation. And that is actually very true. I think a lot of people did not expect the game to be this beautiful and to play really well, to put to shame things that are considered to be the norm, like Assassin's Creed games, even though I don't like Assassin's Creed games, especially the newer ones, and the copying and pasting that Ubisoft puts in them. And yeah, Ghost of Tsushima just took everyone by surprise. I think that was a very pleasant surprise that everyone needed, especially during this year 2020, and especially there are other games that totally disappointed a huge number of fans. So I have highlighted a few things here, and just to show you how Paul Tassi wrote this article really well, and I think it should be read by anyone who wants to buy Ghost of Tsushima and not very sure if they would do that choice or not. So he says, The Last of Us Part 2, despite many agreeing that it's a phenomenal game, has been a hotbed of debate since its release, and that's actually true. So The Last of Us Part 2 has a lot of things done right, and the core driving force of it, which is the story, is done totally wrong because of the mechanics that the story used and because of the decisions that they took to make things go forward. He carries on, Ghost of Tsushima, it has been a far less controversial title, liked by critics, but flat out beloved by fans. And again, can't agree more, that's totally true. And it is easy to see why. It's a game that is genuinely impossible not to like with how much it gets right. So there you go, you have someone who is a critic and liking a game that the fans like. Because recently we have this discrepancy between fans and critics. Sometimes critics like a game and the fans don't, and sometimes the fans like a game and the critics don't. And critics have been accused of giving too high scores for games just to keep their privilege of review copies. Actually, Forbes didn't get a review copy of The Last of Us Part 2, and it doesn't seem to have gotten one of Ghost of Tsushima. Otherwise, why would this article be released kinda late, like on the 27th of July? It is impossible to talk about Ghost of Tsushima without first mentioning its beauty. I have made the case that Ghost of Tsushima may be the most beautiful game ever made. That's really a bold statement. And given the past generation of releases, this is not something I say lightly. It is not just about photorealism. In fact, environments and characters in games like God of War or The Last of Us are certainly more graphically intense. But it is art design here, the gorgeous, sweepy landscapes of rich, vibrant colors, and the use of sunlight, wind, and weather effects to make practically every frame of the game something you want to snap a photo of. That's actually true. Some people criticize the game for being a little bit too colorful, which means that the colors are not really used in a photorealistic way. And indeed, Ghost of Tsushima doesn't compete in the photorealism department, but rather in the art design, just like Paul Tassi says here. I don't know if I can say it's the most beautiful game ever, but it's certainly one of the most beautiful games out there. I am in awe of how enjoyable Sucker Punch has made combat in Ghost of Tsushima, a fine balance between the ultra hard parrying and dodging of Neo or Dark Souls, but challenging enough to be more than a simple hack and slash. A wide variety of armor, sets and charms paired with traditional parrying and dodging, paired with special ghost weapon, paired with shifting combat senses and special moves, all equals one of the most robust engaging combat systems I have ever seen. And indeed, the game combat is something where the game excels because we have 4 stances and you can choose between stealth or direct combat. You can fight the samurai way or you can fight the ghost way. You have so much variety in your fighting styles and systems, and just like other reviewers said, it doesn't make the game more difficult by just adding more HP to enemies, but rather you really have to fight well enough to surpass your opponent, and it's a journey of learning how to fight, so it makes you feel like a samurai. And I am sounding like an IGN employee here. Finally, a third pillar of the game is one I was not expecting: an incredible, well-written, emotionally impactful story. Jin's story is fascinating. So Jin is the protagonist of the game, of course, as we are not going down the well-worn road of should heroes kill here, but rather the story is one about honor and constant conflict between Jin and his uncle over the tactics they should be using to fight the Mongols. And this conflict is also the driving force of the game. Jin has to either follow the samurai code of honor, so to speak, and fight like samurai fight, or he has to choose the thief way or the ghost way or the assassin way to get rid of his opponent because he is hugely outnumbered. The game just gives you this conflict: should I be an honorable samurai and fight the Mongols in the way that I was raised to fight, or should I save my life and be smarter? I am outnumbered and I have to take these Mongols down because they have invaded my land, and because I cannot really fight them alone or count on the shogun who is so busy with his geishas to send me some troops as a sort of reinforcement. And then you will make some choices in the game and it will make you feel conflicted because there are your feelings that get into the way of thinking just pragmatically, and there is this problem of honor versus getting your job done. He carries on. But it's not just Jin's story that's gripping. We have a number of lengthy side quests that are fascinating, mostly based around Jin and his allies. That's true, there are some NPCs that you help and they will help you back. Sometimes you just go to find some onsens, or sometimes you make some haikus, those very short Japanese poems that some people in Kotaku didn't like because they don't even know what a haiku is. The game doesn't just make you go into this killing spree non-stop, but you can just have some time for yourself and maybe have the character reflect on his choices and the things he does, or just write some poems and enjoy nature or an onsen. And that is one of the good things about the game, that it doesn't force you to follow the story or forces you to do side quests in order to become stronger, and it doesn't have those shady microtransactions if you just want to finish the game very quickly and get the pieces of armor that you need quicker than you should be. And then the conclusion says, that said, I'll be damned if I don't want to return to that world down the road, perhaps in DLC, a bit unlikely in this era, or almost certainly in a sequel, given the success of the game. And speaking about sequels, Paul Tassi just wanted to force Sucker Punch adopting this idea of a female samurai in their sequel game. That was a stupid take. It's a kind of difficult thing to do. There are some very few examples of women succeeding in this samurai era, even though the samurai was mostly dominated by male samurai. But if we go down that road of female samurai, then these journos will just try to push their agenda on it and say that why doesn't this female samurai fight the system, quote unquote, or male toxicity. That's how they like to speak about dominant males in societies. So yeah, that's why I don't think Sucker Punch should listen to Paul Tassi at all about his ideas of what the game or the sequel of Ghost of Tsushima should be like, but rather do something that works well. Even if it has a female samurai as a star, I have no problem with it. It just has to be done appropriately, and if we don't get identity politics in it, it will be a huge success, no matter the gender of the hero. From the trailers, we always knew Ghost of Tsushima would be pretty, but I was not expecting a combat system this engaging and fun, or a story this gripping and emotional. It is easily one of the best games of the entire PS4 generation, and given its competition, that's saying something. And that's actually true, because PS4 had some good games like Uncharted 4, talking here about exclusives, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, The Last of Us Remastered, and so he gives a score of 9.5 out of 10. This article is full of praise of what the game is doing well. There is a small section of the game criticism, like the game is long, but overall it is just a very well put package that doesn't speak about identity politics, doesn't try to educate us, quote unquote, so why wouldn't it be one of the biggest contenders of Game of the Year? Anyway, thank you for watching. What do you think about this article, and what do you think about Ghost of Tsushima? Leave your comments down below, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a good one.